Alright, big news folks, something just happened that could be impacting you. Many of you know that Republicans and Democrats in Congress have been struggling to come up with an agreement, and they have failed to come out with the next stimulus package. So President Donald Trump took matters into his own hands today and signed 4 executive orders. We're going to be covering exactly what those executive orders are and what they mean for you and your money. I also have a big warning for folks that not a lot of people are talking about. It definitely can impact you, so you're going to want to stick around for that. All of that and more, and it happens right now. Hey, I'm Jay, and here we talk about real estate, personal finance, and other gems that can make you money.
Subscribe.
That's right, folks, we're sharing the wealth. Just a quick call out, in this video, we're not going to be talking about politics. This really isn't a channel for that, so we're going to just stick to the facts. So firstly, Trump signed an executive order that will provide an additional $400 per week in enhanced unemployment benefits. And as you might know, the additional $600 per week that was previously provided by the CARES Act recently expired on July 31st. The way this is going to work is the federal government is going to cover 75% of this payment, and states are being asked to cover 25% of the payment. What's unclear is how states that already have their budgets tapped out as a result of this health crisis are going to be able to come up with the money. In fact, one governor is already on record as saying, yeah, we don't have the money for that. So I guess we'll have to wait and see how this pans out. But at least as of right now, it seems like those who are worried about not getting extended unemployment benefits have a little light at the end of the tunnel. Second, Trump extended the moratorium on evictions. Now this is going to apply to renters and homeowners, but what's not clear is exactly how long the extended moratorium is going to last. And so if you're into real estate, this is actually pretty big news, especially if you're in the middle of a real estate deal already, or if you're thinking about buying some investment property. You will need to think about the risk of not being able to evict a tenant who can't pay the rent, and what this means for you as a landlord. Also, this will clearly delay the eviction crisis that so many people have been talking about. Next up, Trump signed an executive order that suspends student loan payments from now through the end of the year. It also maintains the 0% interest period for federal student loans. And Trump has said he will likely also continue the suspension into 2021. And finally, the 4th executive order, and this is a big one, a payroll tax holiday. Don't get confused about this one, folks. This does not mean that there is no more income tax. That's not what's happening here. Every time you get a paycheck, some of it is withheld to fund Social Security and Medicare, and that amount comes to 7.65%. Your employer is also required to match that with another 7.65%. So there's going to be a payroll tax holiday on that amount for both employers and employees, and it's going to apply to anyone making $100,000 or less. What's not immediately clear is if somebody making more than $100,000 will be able to defer these taxes up to the first $100,000 of income. So what this actually means for you is that for every $100 of a paycheck that you get, $7.65 would be added into your paycheck that would have normally been withheld to pay these payroll taxes. I just want to do a simplified example to give you a sense of how big this is and what this could mean for you. Suppose for a minute that your paycheck had a gross pay amount of $2,000. Gross pay is the amount before anything's taken out. And now let's suppose that after all things are pulled out, before the payroll holiday, that your paycheck has been about $1,500. Now with the payroll holiday, your paycheck could be $1,653. That should kind of give you a sense of what this can mean for you. And this is going to be retroactive going back to August 1st. Now there's a couple of call outs here. Obviously, this won't benefit anyone who doesn't have a job. You need to be employed in order to get these benefits. And like I said, it's only going to apply for those making up to $100,000. And we don't exactly know what's going to happen for those making more than $100,000 as the official papers have not been released yet. We'll have to wait and see what those say about that. And now I want to discuss exactly what I wanted to warn you guys about. Donald Trump cannot cut taxes. He would need congressional approval for that. He is only authorized to defer them as part of his emergency plan. This is not tax cancellation. This is tax deferment. Deferment is the key word, which means in theory, you might be required to pay these taxes back at a later date. It's kind of like that forbearance for homeowners, where a bunch of people thought they no longer had to pay their loan and then found out they had to make 4 payments all at once. So be careful with this, folks, but this is not payroll tax forgiveness. Will something happen in the future to turn this into payroll tax forgiveness? We don't know yet. It's too soon to tell. But again, this does mean that theoretically you might be required to pay these taxes back. So this is a big heads up to both employers and employees. So Trump has said, employers will be permitted to stop withholding those taxes from eligible employee paychecks during this period. So that means if a firm wants to, it could continue to collect the money. And some firms that realize they may be required to pay this money in the end. This may mean that you might not actually see any change in your paycheck if the company you work for decides to continue collecting the money. And here's the part that's a little weird for me. If ultimately these payroll taxes are forgiven, Congress passes something that just says, yeah, let's forgive those taxes. Don't make anyone pay it. If you're working for a company that has been withholding it the whole time, what happens then? It'd be a little frustrating if they just kept that money. It would seem like what your company would need to do at that point is deliver all the payments to you in one lump sum. We just don't know how that will work out, and I don't know all the legalities around that. I just want to point out that there's a lot of uncertainty exactly how this will work. So just to be clear, number one, you might not see any change to your paycheck if the company you work for decides to continue withholding those payroll taxes. And number two, if you do see a change in your paycheck and suddenly you have more money, you better hang on to that money because it might not be forgiven. You might be required to pay it all back at the end of the deferment period. And Trump also put out a couple of bids for re-election by saying if he's re-elected, he may extend the payroll tax holiday or make it permanent. So those are the 4 executive orders that were signed, but in addition to that, Trump kicked around a couple other ideas. One where he talked about reducing income tax and reducing capital gains tax. And he jokingly said, hopefully you didn't sell all your stocks. There was no mention of stimulus checks so far, but with almost all certainty, whenever Congress does align on the next stimulus package, stimulus checks will be part of that package. I guess now we wait and see what happens to the stock market on Monday. And that's all we got for this one, just a quick news update. Thank you for watching. If you wouldn't mind, please subscribe to the channel. We'll see you in the next video. And as always, you guys are awesome.